need a space.
What's to follow here is as clear and simple a statement of my philosophy as could be made, I think. But apparently I'm in the way of the garbage removal, and so I have to relocate back to this chair. This chair will play a big part in the adventures to follow. The best way to practice your philosophy is by practicing your philosophy, and the first step in that process is to describe and explain what your philosophy is. There are two aspects to my philosophy, which in an important sense is not mine or yours at all. It was described and explained first by the ancient Greeks, but was not precisely invented by them. It was instead discovered much in the way that mathematics are created but not discovered. There is no universe in which mathematics could be invented in which 2 plus 2 equals 5. And there's no possible human population in which the truth described here could be found to be lies. It is simply impossible. There was a time in the West, perhaps 100 years ago, when the things I'm going to describe here would have been thought of as the birthright of every Western child. To not know what I'm going to say here would have been, and still is, to be uneducated in the most profound sense of that word. The philosophy presented here is easy to understand. In fact, you already know most of it. If you don't, you're not a sane, rational person with any real connection to either your critical thinking facilities or your soul. And to live without any connection to your critical facilities or your soul is a painful condition. Living hell, in fact, and I know because I lived like that for a period of time, as have most people to varying degrees. The truth of what I'm going to say will be obvious, and you should take that as an indication that it is the truth. You are a wise person. The only original things are the conciseness of the description. I really doubt this is the most concise description, and a certain key juxtaposition. And just to point out, this is Will Durant, The History of Philosophy, and all I've done is taken a bunch of pages out. So I'm really just saying exactly what he said in those books and what philosophers have been saying for thousands of years. Just putting them beside each other, I think in an interesting way, at least one that I haven't heard before. Okay, feel free to disagree with this philosophy that I'm laying out. No statement of philosophy is anything if not an invitation to criticism, along with a commitment to love, never fully realized, of course. Criticism is what Western civilization, aside from its art forms, essentially is, or is supposed to be. It may be difficult to believe that a group of civilizations that have committed so many atrocities is committed essentially to love, but there is no question that this is its fundamental philosophical origin. Love your enemy is one of the most foundational principles of Christianity. And Christianity is the fundamental basis of Western civilization, along with the Enlightenment reaction to Christianity and science and Greek philosophy. Again, please feel free to criticize this essay. The best truth-seeking is usually done collaboratively, and besides, shutting down criticism is hate, the opposite of love, which again is ostensibly the basis of Western civilization. To restrict a person's freedom of expression is much like imprisoning him, and definitely a form of torture, exactly the opposite of love. Conservatism is simply the love of what we have, and what we have or had is in most important ways the greatest collection of civilizations that have ever existed by far, which is to say quite a lot. I'm not saying that other civilizations haven't been great. I'm saying that Western civilization is probably the best. And that's why so many countries such as Taiwan, Korea, etc. have emulated it. The only real challenge to the Western model as an ideal has come from communist countries, particularly China, which has already colonized most of the world. Canada is a vassal state of China, as are most Western countries, because China has already corrupted most of the elite classes. There's no question about this. Chinese have for thousands of years, Chinese have thousands of years of experience with elite capture, and it works in a very simple way by exploiting greed and narcissism. You just pay them off and appeal to their ego, and eventually they're working for you and not for the university they work for, or for the students, or for the country. They're working for China. This has been reality in Canada for 2 or 3 decades, probably. The critical, in scare quotes, philosophies taught in Western universities take the right to criticize and demand it for themselves, while near simultaneously